Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe P. Zapia, and with me today is Andrew Erickson, the big pod energy man himself, the reigning, defending, undisputed host of our Dynasty Football Podcast, Scott Bogman, and the worst, Shane Manilla. Shane is the worst, one of our favorite people over here at Fantasy Pros, and today we got another mock draft episode for your ears and your eyes. And we're going to go through the first round one more time, get some fresh takes with some fresh people. Speaking of fresh, Andrew Erickson, clean shaven, fresh, ready to go. He's going to be on vacation next week. Are y'all packed already there, Erickson? You ready to go and leave us here to our own devices?
No, I'm not done. I have not touched my suitcase. I appreciate the call out, my fresh shave. You know, I did the Instagram live yesterday, and someone said, hey, Andrew, looks like you have some dirt above your lips. So I made sure to take care of that for today's podcast.
That happens.
Well, my favorite YouTube comment, my favorite YouTube comment I saw from this earlier week show was something about why is Andrew Erickson every time he has to give some sort of analysis, he licks his lips first? Like, what's he trying to do there? And I said it's because you were influenced heavily by LL Cool J in your youth. I thought that was kind of what it was. Yeah. Hey, girl, I want to make this pick right here. Scott Bogman, the host of the Dynasty Football Podcast here at Fantasy Pros. Things are going really well on that program with you and Pat Fitzmaurice. If you don't listen already, you should be, because they're breaking down, obviously, the free agent landscape, what it means to Dynasty football these last few weeks. We're talking about the draft all the time. So, Boggs, I know you had a lot of stuff going on that show. How's that going for you lately?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. I mean, Fitz is just so great to work with. And, you know, Joe, you told me that before I ever worked with Fitz. You were just like, lovely human being. He's a lovely human being, and he absolutely is. And we have Matt Waldman on this week to talk about some of these rookies and, see who he likes and doesn't like and go through the list. So it's been a lot of fun. And if you're a Dynasty player, you should definitely listen to it. It's we're giving you a lot of good information as well. So fun and informative. Can't beat that, man. Can't beat it.
Can't beat that. And speaking of fun and informative, there's Shane Manilla, who's always around here. Shane, you are the opposite of Pat Fitzmaurice. I always find, like, if Pat's like the nicest guy, you're just mean. That Philadelphia accent certainly just kind of pushes it forward a little bit further. It makes it just a little bit more frustrating to be in any room with you at all times. And that's why I love you, Shane, and I love your football knowledge. So what do you got going on these days, my friend?
Nothing much. We actually just had Pat on our show on Dynasty Trades HQ the other night, last week. I don't know, one of those days. And I had to remind him about the Dynasty Pros podcast when he was signing off. I'm like, Pat, what are you doing, bro? You have another podcast, my man. Excited to be here. Just working on the DLF Dynasty Draft Guide and excited to do some mock drafting. I'm going to tell you right now, I am going to be the Joker of the crew and throw in as many offensive skill players where they don't fit as possible.
Awesome.
Can't wait to see the Instagram response to this.
It's going to be so good. If you want to get involved, by the way, in more discussions, whether it be the draft, NFL free agency, Dynasty, it doesn't matter what the discussion, we've got it for you over on our Discord channel, fantasypros.com/chat. It's free to join. But when you have a premium membership here at Fantasy Pros, you have access to so many more channels, including the AMAs. Matt Friedman and I just did an AMA last week with our members over there of our Discord. It's a great group, too, if you're looking to join leagues, looking to add people into your leagues, or just, again, ask us questions, get in the AMAs, get in the stages with us, where you could literally, like a radio show, just kind of talk football with us, talk out your problems, maybe even your life issues, a little movie, a little music discussion from time to time as well. But fantasypros.com/chat, that is the place to be. So I encourage everybody, join our Discord, be a part of our great community. Even you, Shane, I'd like you to be there too, despite your, gruff exterior. So today we're going to do a first round mock. It's going to be just like last time, except we're not going to let Andrew Erickson pick for the Chargers anymore. I've had it enough. I have put my foot down. I told Erickson no more. We are now moving along. So we are going to start here with Andrew Erickson.
He paid me $10, by the way, to take Jameson Williams for the Chargers. So just
if you do, I am shutting this show down immediately. Like, if you take Jameson Williams for the Chargers one more time and go full Erickson on me, the show is over. I'm going to walk out there, and that's it. That's it. It's over. So hopefully that won't happen. And if you want to watch this or watch me walk out of the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros. That's the place to see the draft board as you're listening, which is really the full experience, especially when it comes to Andrew Erickson growing facial hair. That's where you get the full experience too. You might have to, get a little closer to the screen, but it's there, I assure you, somewhere. All right, Andrew Erickson, you are at the top of the board today. So you are on the clock officially for the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that still has a lot of needs. So where do you want to start in terms of the giving tree?
I know that the Jacksonville Jaguars recently added in a defensive end from the 49ers, Arden Key, and that has people panicked already about, oh, well, now they can't draft Aiden Hutchinson. They added in another defensive end. And, guys, Arden Key averaged 3 sacks per season, for the first 3 years of his career. He actually totaled 3 sacks. So, he had a big year last year playing alongside the Nick Bosa's Eric Armstead last year. So I could see him actually having a much more productive role alongside Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Allen. So that's why I think Aiden Hutchinson is the pick here for me from Michigan, pass rusher, PFF's highest graded pass rusher coming out of the draft since Chase Young. So I think he's still the favorite, and I would not be swayed anyway by this Arden Key addition to think that it's not going to be Hutchinson.
Yeah, I don't think that move has anything to do with whether or not you draft Aiden Hutchinson, who is the consensus top on a lot of boards right now. He's the edge rusher from Michigan. Great player, great guy, certainly somebody who can help change the culture there, which certainly needs a little bit of help in Jacksonville, no doubt about that. So Aiden Hutchinson off the board. Scott Bogman, you're up for the new Hard Knocks team, the Detroit Lions. You're on the clock.
Going to be a lot of fun, going to be a lot of fun to watch this team, and Dan Campbell in the background biting kneecaps and all that good stuff for sure. But look, I'm just going to follow the tea leaves here. And the tea leaves are, and Andrew did this in the last mock that I was a part of, it's going to be Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. He seems to be getting that helium right now. This is a team that wants to build from the inside out. They said it last year. That's why they took Sewell, right? So I think you add to that line, you take BPA if you're the Lions, because if you're picking number 2 overall, you've earned it, right? So you can't be going for team need, which would be quarterback. If there was a quarterback worth taking at number 2, I'm sure they'd pull the trigger, but I don't think there is one. So Trayvon Walker, the defensive end edge rusher out of Georgia, going to the Lions here to add to this good line.
Bogman was nice enough to let me write up Trayvon Walker for the IDP section of our new Dynasty Draft Guide coming out pretty soon for all the rookies. And man, you know what a fan I am, Boggs. In season when we did the college football show together, how much I love Trayvon Walker. So I'm not surprised that it's gotten to this point. And the edge rusher from Georgia to the Detroit Lions seems like a fantastic fit here for a team that really wants to upgrade on defense. So Walker and Hutchinson are off the board. The Houston Texans need everything, Shane. So where do you want to start with them for the third pick?
Yeah, that was my note. They need absolutely everything. There's literally no way to go wrong here unless I guess you overdraft a quarterback. So I won't do that, as much fun as it would have been. I'm going to go Evan Neal. I'm gonna go offensive tackle. I don't think you can go wrong with it. They really need to protect Davis Mills there, right? Davis Mills is going to be really average, but that's fine. You know what I mean? He can protect whoever their quarterback is going to be from the 2023 class, likely CJ Stroud.
Now, a question for you: was there any thought process of Neal over Ikwonu for any specific reason?
Not particularly. I'm not an offensive tackle guru. I'm just going to take whoever's coming off the board highest. And also, it's easier to pronounce Neal's name. That's fair. That is very important to me. I do have trouble with names, so we went with Neal. You can't mess that up.
That's right.
Very good. Very good. I look forward to some of the later names to come in this draft. New York Jets are up on the 4 spot here. Andrew Erickson, you are on the clock.
Gang green. I'm going with Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge defender from Oregon. And I just think that he is a player that can make a big impact for the New York Jets. I know that the talk with him is that he's not a hard worker. He takes plays off. He's Jadeveon Clowney. He even compared himself to Jadeveon Clowney, which is why I think that going to a team like the Jets is a good spot for him, because they have someone on the other side, Carl Lawson, an established vet that can push Thibodeau. Like, he needs to get pushed. And I think that Robert Saleh, a guy that's always, you look at the 49ers defensive line, they just took first round picks every single season, and they just built that defensive line to the beast that it ended up becoming. And I think that starts with Kayvon Thibodeau for the New York Jets.
Bogman, do you think that Saleh's the guy who pushed Thibodeau to, kind of rectify some of those things that Andrew's alleging, which I believe to be true. And I know you and I have had this discussion on many a show. Do you think Saleh's the right personality for Thibodeau?
Absolutely. I mean, he got the best out of that Niners defense, and I absolutely think he can push Kayvon as well. And I think it's more, I think for Kayvon Thibodeau, it's more frustration when he doesn't read the play right and it's going on the other side. He just gives up. I think it's more frustration. Plus, I mean, everyone telling him the whole year, you're going to be the number one pick. You're going to be the number one pick. You're going to be the number one pick. It's not going to inspire you to put a way more effort into college where you're not getting that much money at all. So, I'm sure he got some out of NFTs or NILs last year, but not as much as he's going to make in the pro game. So I maybe took a couple plays off because of that as well. So let's get him in the pros, and we know what the NFL stands for. Not for long if you're going to take plays off. So
yeah, took a couple
Jerry
skills drills. Took a couple skills drills off at the combine as well. So taking things off seems to be Thibodeau's kind of deal. So Thibodeau, the edge rusher from Oregon, goes to the Jets at 4. The Giants are up next with the 5 pick. Scott Bogman, you are up.
This is a tough pick because there are some big needs for the New York Giants. Obviously, right tackle, you probably don't want to go in the season with Pert. Interior offensive line as well. They have big needs at edge rushers, which is why I kind of was upset that Kayvon Thibodeau went 1 pick ahead of them. Although there are some good ones in this class, you can't go wrong. But I'm going to stick on the offensive line here, and I am going to give him Ike Ekwonu out of NC State. Ekwonu can play right tackle. I think this is who Andrew gave them last time we drafted as well. He can move inside to guard if, Pert is playing better and they don't get a guard later or sign one. So he's versatile. He can play all over the offensive line, and if you're going to give Daniel Jones a shot, let's keep him upright. So Ike Ekwonu going to the Giants there.
I got to imagine they would be excited to get him at 5 too. That's a fantastic value on a player who could go as early as 1. It's not impossible. Carolina Panthers up next with the 6th pick on the board. Shane, what are you going to do for the Panthers here?
All right, it's time for chaos.
Here we go.
We're going Malik Willis. I keep fluctuating and going back and forth. Like, is Matt Rule trying to save his job this year? If he is, it's probably Kenny Pickett, right? But Malik Willis is hard to pass up on. He's the legitimate, real, like, all things being equal, quarterback 1 of the class. So I'm going to go with Malik Willis. He can't be worse than Sam Darnold, right? Like, that's just that can't be.
Don't say
can't
that.
be worse than Cam Newton was last year.
That I agree with.
Yeah, I think they get Malik in there. I don't know if he starts day 1, but he starts pretty early, and he just peppers DJ Moore with about 170 targets, and I'm a happy camper next year.
So what if let's say this did happen, which I don't think this is outside the realm of possibilities at all. If you drafted Willis for the Panthers, what would be your expectation realistically for him? Would it be 6 weeks in, 8 weeks in, week 1? I mean, it seems like a hard sell week 1 for Malik Willis, but what would be realistic in redraft or dynasty for expectations for him?
See, I do look at the season in quarters, right? So when they're about 1-3 and Matt Rule's realizing, oh, I'm actually going to get fired after this year. Like, this isn't working. Let's go ahead and throw the rookie in there because at least, he's got the physical tool set that he can take off. Like, if the play breaks down, fine, just run, or, just send on someone deep. Like, let's not overcomplicate things. Let's keep it simple and just send the kid out there. I'd have to look at and I haven't yet. I haven't looked at the bye weeks. I don't know if they're out because I cheat and just go, well, whenever the bye week is. But I think when they're when they're 1-3, staring at 1-3, and Matt Rule realizes he's going to be, working at Texas Tech next year, that's when Malik Willis is thrown in there.
It's a great job. You gotta love that Texas Tech job. All right, number 7 here is the New York Giants acquisition from the Bears. Andrew Erickson, you're picking for the Giants. They just took Ike Ekwonu from NC State first with their 5th pick. So who do they take with the 7th?
I think it's setting up really nice for the New York Giants. You're getting the offensive tackle from Bogman. Shout out to Boggs. So I will go with Sauce Gardner, cornerback from Cincinnati. The Giants are doing basically whatever they can to try to get rid of James Bradberry. They're like, please just take him off of our team. Like, we don't want him anymore. He's a zone corner. He does not fit into Don Martindale's scheme where you're putting cornerbacks on an island. That's all Sauce Gardner did at Cincinnati. Man up, coverage, never allowed a single touchdown in coverage in his entire college career. He's probably going to give us some touchdowns on the Giants, but he's going to be a lockdown corner from day one. I think that I think this is honestly the best. If the Giants walk out of the draft with their first 2 picks with a all-purpose cornerback and one of the top offensive tackles, I think that Giants fans are just, this is the best. Like this is ideal for a Big Blue.
I would agree with that sentiment. So hopefully for Giants fans, that does come true. The Atlanta Falcons are up next with the 8th pick. Scott Bogman, you're up.
I think this is the worst roster in the NFL. The Atlanta Falcons, right?
You might be right.
I really do. I mean, the offense is rough. They got listen to their current starting wide receivers: Christian Blake, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Kadarius Hodge. Those are their starting wideouts.
Signed Auden Tate.
You're right. You know what? My mistake.
Frank
Auden
Darby.
Tate did just sign. Yeah. Frank Darby.
Frank Darby is there.
Arizona State special teamer. Yeah, he's
They have
there.
a better chance of Terrence Trent Darby catching a ball for them than him.
Look, I want to take him a wide receiver here because there's so much first-round talent, but the class is so deep. With the worst roster in the NFL, or at least one of them, you have to take BPA if you're the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm going to take him Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton is the best player on the board right now. He slipped in our last mock. This one, he's not going to fall that far. I'm going to give him to Atlanta and stop the slide here. This guy, I would not be shocked if he went number 2 to the Lions, or if they do flip with the Jaguars for him to go number 2 to the Jaguars, because he is one of the best players in this draft. Safety's not a premium position, so you rarely see them going inside the top 10, but Kyle Hamilton is absolutely that type of talent, and Atlanta is a type of team that absolutely is forced to take the best player available. So for me, it's going to be Kyle Hamilton. I agree. Going to them
1,000% with that assessment too. Just take the best player on the board. He's the best player on the board. You have so many needs. You're not competing. Just start rebuilding the roster. All right. The Seattle Seahawks are up next with one of their picks from the Denver Broncos with the 9 spot. That means you, Shane, you're on the clock.
All right. I want to go Kenny Pickett here. But that's probably not going to happen. Right. Someone nudge me, and it's happening.
I'm not going to speak up for Drew Lock, so you're not going to get it from
with
me.
Malik Willis not on the board. I don't know if now there's a pressure point for Pete Carroll. That's possible.
There's a pressure point. It's Kenny Pickett. They need a quarterback. I mean, they have to go quarterback in this first round, right? Is what I think. And for reasons not entirely clear to me, Kenny Pickett is the quarterback one of the class, even though I drafted Malik Willis over him. I heard you guys talking about him last draft, that you're not worried about his baby hands. I am a little worried about his baby hands, but his hands did grow from the combine to the pro day. So I
imagine how much bigger they're going to get before the start of the season, Shane.
He might have 10-inch hands by the time the season starts. And if he does, I mean, that's really my only drawback. That, and, he was a late producer and he was in college until his mid-30s. But I think he could be a good pro quarterback. I think he'll take his marching orders a lot better than Russell Wilson. If Pete tells him to hand the ball off 46 times, he's just going to say, "You got it, dude." So I'm going to go.
Well, here's a question. Shane, I have a question for you regarding Pickett. You talk about being a late bloomer. I'm not calling him Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow was a late bloomer, quote unquote. We've had a few quarterbacks in the last few years that kind of came on at the end of their college careers. So what is it about Pickett that you're not completely sold on from what you've seen last year?
Well, just so the late bloomer thing scares me because of Daniel Jones. It scares me because of I don't even remember now. Just generally guys like that for some reason. Mitch Trubisky. I'm permanently
doesn't want to come to mind.
Permanently scarred, so it's hard to see the good. The biggest thing is coming into the 2021 college season. I don't think he was a first-round draft pick. He definitely wasn't talked about like an elite quarterback. So that always scares me when it takes you until you're a 24-year-old man, 23-year-old man to start dominating 18-year-old and 19-year-old kids. It's just that physical and that mental gap between you and children that you're playing with frightens me.
I know Shane, made comment to Kenny Pickett's age, and I'll be honest, I had to double check to make sure that Kenny Pickett was actually younger than Sam Darnold, because I wasn't sure. I was like, wait a minute, Sam Darnold's 1 year older than Kenny Pickett is. It's so that's kind of putting in perspective. Sam Darnold's been in the NFL for 4 years. And he's 1 year older than Kenny Pickett. So just perspective. And I think that does matter. Why did it take him so long? He threw more touchdowns this past year than he did for his entire college career. So just interesting notes.
But
but Burrow's one of those late developers too. So it just, you never know whether it's confidence or if it's a light bulb thing. I think the light bulb thing is a little more concerning. Because like Shane said, you couldn't figure this out before. You've had seasoning, I think is the nice way to say that. But I understand what you're saying, Shane.
Yeah, and we definitely gave Joe Burrow, we gave him the benefit of the doubt looking back. Like, did you, Jamar?
He won a national championship.
Well, he orchestrated the best offense ever.
Justin Jefferson.
So,
Clyde Edwards, in a lot of ways, guys, that could be more misleading when you prop up a player who's a late bloomer with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So, oh my God, this is the most amazing team ever. And he's a late bloomer. There's a lot of reasons to be concerned about that. Joe Burrow is kind of his own guy there and sort of buck that trend. But it's a good discussion. And it's one that's important to have because this is not a great quarterback class. So I think that we all need to spend a little bit more time and start recognizing, okay, these are who these guys are. Just because they're going to go early doesn't necessarily mean they're good fantasy investments too. They might come with a little bit more risk. Speaking of risk, the New York Jets, they love risk. So they just took Kayvon Thibodeau with their first pick, and now they got another one in the top 10. Andrew Erickson, you are dominating with the Jets today. Who is the other Jet pick for you?
They just can't get enough of these West Coast superstars from the Pac-12. So I'm going to go with Drake London from USC, wide receiver. Just another big body target for Zach Wilson to get the ball to. Drake London is a contested catch receiver, but I do think he can do a little bit more. He can operate from the slot. He broke it at a really great age. Like, he's not even 21 years old yet. We're talking about, how old Kenny Pickett is, and talk about on the other side of it, how young Drake London is. Like, he was able to produce at USC while sharing the field with Michael Pittman and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Two guys that we've already seen produce at the NFL level. And now you're going to drop Drake London into an offense with some nice pieces with Zach Wilson, who has a big arm. I think it's a really good fit for Drake London.
All right, let's recap the first 10 picks here. To the Jacksonville Jaguars at 1, Aiden Hutchinson, edge rusher out of Michigan. Then the Detroit Lions at 2, take Trayvon Walker, edge rusher from Georgia. At 3, the Houston Texans select Evan Neal, offensive tackle from Alabama. Then Kayvon Thibodeau, edge rusher from Oregon, goes to the Jets at 4. Ike Ekwonu, offensive tackle from NC State, goes to the Giants at 5. Then Carolina Panthers at 6. Take a quarterback, Malik Willis from Liberty, trying to save Matt Rule's job. 7, you have the New York Giants taking Ahmad Sauce Gardner at cornerback for Cincinnati. Then Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, goes to the Falcons at 8, followed by the Seattle Seahawks at 9, taking Kenny Pickett for the quarterback from Pitt, and then the Drake London selection by the Jets, USC wide receiver, which puts the Commanders up next. And Scott Bogman, you are in command of the next pick.
Oh, come on, Joe. You're better than
I love you.
Look,
you love me.
Yeah, I do. The Commanders are actually a team that is fairly set with their roster that is picking high here. They have a lot of things. The offensive line is good. So I don't think we need to take any offensive line here. The defensive line is good now that they're going to get Chase Young and Montez Sweat back on the line. The secondary was a little questionable. So for me, it's, do you want to go with a wide receiver or do you want to go with a corner here? Because there are a lot of good options on the plate. But I think if you're investing in Carson Wentz and you actually do think he's the guy, you have to get him weapons. There's just no way you can start him out there without getting him more weapons, because obviously if you don't give him weapons, he's not going to win games. So let's give them Treylon Burks to go on the other side of Terry McLaurin. And sorry, Andrew, I saw very upset there. I definitely sniped him. But Burks alongside McLaurin, I think is a great 1-2 punch. And
it is.
Carson Wentz has more options. You see what Miami is doing with Tua, right? Just get him great options. If he's not going to be the best quarterback, let's put some playmakers on the field for him. And
100%. That logic totally worked out with. Yeah. That logic totally worked out with the Denver Broncos and Drew Lock last year. Totally. It was great. It was just too big to fail.
Drew Lock and Carson Wentz, there is a sizable talent gap there, and that's saying something because I don't think Carson Wentz is that great. So
is there?
Fair enough, Boggs. Fair enough. All right.
I think there is. I don't like Drew Lock at all.
All right, Shane, the fantasy community is loving you because you're taking quarterbacks and players that people really care about, which is great. So you have stayed on brand, which I appreciate. So now you're up with the Minnesota Vikings next at 12. Where are you going?
Unfortunately, I have to make a real football pick here. They need a cornerback. I read about 117 mock drafts, and not one of them did they not come out with a cornerback, which is pretty amazing. I know he's dropping Derek Stingley. I think the upside cornerback, LSU. I think it's too high. I think he's got the makings of a shutdown number one corner. Those are hard to come by. I think that's where the Vikings are going to go.
I would agree, Shane. And Stingley's a great selection at 12. He's a fantastic talent. He could be a shutdown corner, like you're saying, for many years to come for that defense. The Houston Texans are back on the clock now with Andrew Erickson for the 13th pick.
So, Boggs, you did not snipe me with Treylon Burks. I was just disappointed that you missed the opportunity to put 3 Ohio State wide receivers on the field at the same time for Washington. You had 2 guys you could have picked from. You could have taken Wilson or Olave, matched him with Terry McLaurin.
Hey, look, man, they
Curtis
cut
Samuel.
Dwayne Haskins, all right? So it's not working.
No, but they're going to get Stroud next year. It's going to be great.
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course. My bad. I had no idea this was the logic. So,
yeah.
Are they going to hire Urban Meyer too? Is that
maybe?
Don't think that'll work.
We'll see. So with the Houston Texans, again, what Shane had mentioned before, you can't go wrong with any picks here because they just need help across the board. So I can see pass rush. Jermaine Johnson is still on the board, but I'm going to lean towards offensive line with Charles Cross. He played left tackle at Mississippi State for the majority of his career, but he's at the pro days. He's shown the versatility to play more at right tackle, which I think is where they'll end up putting him. Titus Howard is a guy that the Texans have on the roster currently that they're talking about playing more of him at guard. They're not sure if they're going to pick up his 5th-year option. So you have Tunsil on the left side, you have Charles Cross on the right side, and you get a real chance to see what Davis Mills can do. Because if Davis Mills comes out and has a really solid year, then it's okay, maybe we can actually build around this guy. But they're never going to know unless they give him an offensive line that is at least average, so he can actually operate and they can see how good. Because Davis Mills just hasn't really played that many games. He only played, I believe, coming into the NFL 11 games. Obviously, he started a little bit last year, and I think he showed enough to be warranted of, can he be the NFL starter long term? So I think bringing in Charles Cross makes sense from the Texans standpoint, where even if Davis Mills isn't their long-term quarterback, it's not like Charles Cross is a wasted asset as a locked and loaded tackle.
All right, so Charles Cross from Mississippi State goes to the Texans, and there's nothing I love to watch more than Scott Bogman, Mr. Pittsburgh Steeler, have to make a pick for the Baltimore Ravens, who are up next at 14.
Yeah, I wanted to give them Cross, so thanks a lot, Erickson. But look, the offensive line does have some issues, but I think they might want to still stick with Ronnie Stanley over at left tackle. They signed Morgan Moses to play right, so I think they might be okay there. They invested in Rashad Bateman last year, so I don't think they're going to go wide out, although there's a lot of good ones. Let's give them a pass rusher here, and let's give them Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. The guy's got a ton of buzz here. I think this is a good pick for the Ravens. The Ravens are a defense and run team. Their current edge rushers starting are Jason Owe, who's a little bit of a project, Tyus Bowser. I think Jermaine Johnson can come in and play either outside. He could probably play a little bit over tackle as well. A versatile dude. And look, this is a guy that was so good at Florida State, but he had to transfer from Georgia to get playing time because that Georgia defensive line was incredible. So I really like Jermaine Johnson here, and I think it would be a good pick for the Ravens. So let's give him Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State.
An hour ago, I just did the write-up on Johnson, and what stuck out to me was that same thing. It's like, man, imagine if this guy was at Georgia still.
Yeah.
That defense might have been. It's just not even fair. Whoever's recruiting for Georgia is really just blown it out of the park the last couple years. But the question, trying to put a player comp on a guy like Johnson, I came up with Cam Jordan. What'd you think of that one?
That's a good one. Yeah, I think that's a really solid one. Cam Jordan, I don't know if he's going to be that good. I think Cam Jordan's borderline Hall of Fame player here, but I think that's a pretty solid comp in terms of skill set.
I feel like more people will be talking about Johnson if it wasn't such a great edge rushing class to begin with. That's, unfortunate for him, but I think it's just the nature of the beast. Is such a good defensive draft we're in right now. All right, it's happened. Shane, you get to select for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Erickson, if you want, you can make the pick after, or you could just defer to Shane for both of them. I don't know what's more fun to watch Shane have to pick or not pick for the Eagles. I can't decide. So let's just make Shane take one at 15 and then see how it goes.
I mean, but as an Eagles fan, are you going to purposely take a bad pick because that's what they do?
Look, they drafted Devonta Smith last year in the first round. That's as far back as my wide receiver drafting memory goes. Yeah, they're going Garrett Wilson, Ohio State wide receiver. I thought he'd be off the board before now. I was hoping someone was going to fall here, and it wasn't going to be just Chris Olave. No offense to Chris Olave. It's just that I could take him down, and I'd have to catch him. So someone would have to hold him, and then I could shove him to the ground.
It's the Deion Sanders tackle right there.
Exactly. Garrett Wilson's just a stud, just the most complete wide receiver in the class, I think. I don't know that it's great for fantasy because you don't really want Jalen Hurts throwing to him and Devonta Smith because you're going to feel like, all right, well, I don't know who the wide receiver one on that offense is anymore. And are they going to throw the ball more than 30 times a game? But from a real football perspective, I like the pick. And they're going to go wide receiver with one of these 3 picks. And since I didn't get the other 2 picks, I was going wide receiver with this pick.
Well, you could thank Andrew Erickson for the early selection of Drake London. I think that makes Garrett Wilson fall there. Yes. So now the Eagles at 16, Erickson, they've got their wide receiver. What do they need next?
We're going to take care of the secondary. Steven Nelson is a free agent. So I think that the pick here is Trent McDuffie from Washington, PFF's 5th highest graded cornerback last season. He didn't give up more than 39 receiving yards in any single game last year. So I think when you pair him with Darius Slay on the outside, like that's a really formidable duo in the back end for the Eagles.
All right. So we have McDuffie going from Washington to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now up next, finally, the Chargers, not picked by Andrew Erickson. This is what I've been waiting for, Bogman.
You can do it, Bogman. You can do it.
Don't do
I mean,
it.
he's
still on the board.
He's on the board. Don't you do it.
Look, he's a good pick here. Honestly, that would be.
If you want to, you can, but it's just
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go with the other most popular pick on the board here for the Los Angeles Chargers, and let's give them Jordan Davis, the big defensive tackle out of Georgia. They could definitely use this. Right now, they've got Austin Johnson and Sebastian Joseph Day, and those are great defensive tackles. But look, your defensive tackle is going to be rotating in and out. They're huge dudes, and you need to stop the running game. If you're the Chargers here, I think taking a Jordan Davis would definitely help this team a lot on defense and free up. I mean, they have these fast linebackers and Kenneth Murray and Drew Tranquill. So I think that you get a guy that just commands a double team. He's taking up 2 players, and you're going to see a way better version of Kenneth Murray on this defense because he's fast, he's decisive, and he just hasn't been good. And I know this is a new coaching staff. They didn't draft Kenneth Murray. They haven't liked him. He got in the doghouse a little bit there, but they still invested a 1st-round pick in him, and he has a lot of talent. So I think if you put these big hogs in front of him, it's going to free him up to make some plays, and I think Jordan Davis can do that. So let's go with Jordan Davis, the big tackle out of Georgia for them.
Certainly the man in the middle for the Chargers would be Jordan Davis. That would be a fantastic selection there. Big need for the Chargers last year against the run for sure. All right, number 18 is on the clock. That's the New Orleans Saints, and that means it's your ball, Shane. What are you doing with it?
I love how this draft is falling to me. Just perfectly set up for offense. We're going to go with Matt Corral. I love Matt Corral. Love him. It's a little high, maybe. But look, they need a quarterback. They need an actual plan other than Jameis. Please don't turn the ball over. So we're only going to let you throw the ball 20 times a game. Winston, that's his full name, his full legal name, by the way. Yeah. Corral's great under pressure. He's great at avoiding sacks. He's great on play action. He's not so great at staying healthy, but hopefully they will talk to him a bit about being 6'2" and 210 pounds. Like, dude, you can't take off all the time, and if you do, you have to slide or you have to run out of bounds. But and he loves slants, so him and Michael Thomas are going to be like basically best friends. Like when I was watching Matt Corral's tape, and all I kept thinking was, oh my God, Michael Thomas would just absolutely love this guy to the tune of about 195 targets for 1,200 yards, but whatever. So
I love the Shane projection systems for targets.
Very low ADOT. Very low ADOT.
Right. Now, it's fascinating because
ADOT. That's for sure.
We just had Cody Carpentier on the show yesterday, and he was very negative on Matt Corral. I want to know, what is it about Matt Corral that you like? Because it's good to hear another voice about a player, and especially one that's different than the one we just heard.
He's not Jameis Winston.
He's definitely not Jameis. I don't want to use, he's a gamer, but just like I said, he is great under pressure and he's great avoiding sacks. And if I was looking at, I forget who wrote it on PFF, but basically that's a great indicator for quarterbacks that are going to do well in the pros, which seems intuitive, right? Like if you can get away from being sacked and you can do well when you're being pressured, you're probably going to be pretty good. His arm's good enough. He's really decisive generally because he's going to go for his first read, but that works fine with New Orleans because it's going to be Michael Thomas and then take off, dude. I just think he's athletic enough. I like quarterbacks that have some athleticism, right? I think we all do. I don't know anyone that likes the statue quarterbacks anymore because it gives them a little something like if the play breaks down, all right, he can extend it. He can throw off platform and he's going to be able to produce. So 18 is probably a little high, but we'll see when draft day comes when quarterbacks start coming off the board.
All right. So the Eagles are up next at 19. Andrew Erickson, you're back on the clock for another Eagles pick.
I'm going to go with Devin Lloyd, linebacker from Utah. They have TJ Edwards there, who's a solid starter. They signed Kaiser White from the Chargers, but I still think that they need help at linebacker. I mean, anything to help try to stop tight ends just from destroying the Eagles defense, I think Devin Lloyd can help out.
Yeah, and certainly he fell right to them, right in their lap. So the Eagles got everything they needed. They got their wide receiver, their cornerback, and their linebacker in these three picks they have from 15, 16, and 19, which puts us at number 20 and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bogman, you're up on the clock.
Trevor Penning, turn that card in immediately. Snap pick for my Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, I like Dan Moore. I think he's going to be a decent player in the NFL, but he should not be protecting a blind side for anyone in the NFL right now. So let's get him over to right tackle. Chooks can be the swing tackle. I know they gave him probably too much money for this pick to be a reality, which aggravates me. And knowing Mike Tomlin, it'll be Jaquan Brisker because he likes to take a weird safety out of nowhere. And Trey Norwood is starting right now. But if I'm up and I'm picking, I'm taking the big tackle with attitude. Trevor Penning definitely has an AFC North mindset. I'll say that, just a guy that's going to play until the whistle, maybe a little bit after the whistle as well, and really try to intimidate the opposing team. So let's go with Trevor Penning and slide him right in at left tackle from day one for Pittsburgh.
He's the offensive tackle from Northern Iowa, Trevor Penning. That rounds us out for the 20. So going back to 11, we have Bogman selecting for the Commanders, Treylon Burks, wide receiver from Arkansas. Then at 12, Derek Stingley, cornerback from LSU to the Minnesota Vikings. At 13, the Houston Texans select Charles Cross, offensive tackle from Mississippi State. Then Jermaine Johnson, edge rusher from Florida State, going to the Baltimore Ravens at 14. At 15 and 16, the Eagles select Garrett Wilson, wide receiver from Ohio State. Then Trent McDuffie, cornerback from Washington. Then we go to the Chargers, who finally here at Fantasy Pros did not come away with Jamison Williams. Trent McDuffie instead, cornerback from Washington. Then Jordan Davis, goes to the Chargers. Defensive tackle from Georgia. My apologies there. I read the wrong spot there. Then we have at number 18, the New Orleans Saints, Matt Corral, quarterback from Ole Miss, being selected by the Saints. At 19, the Eagles back again, get their linebacker finally, Devin Lloyd, top one on the board from Utah. And then Northern Iowa's offensive tackle, Trevor Penning. Scott Bogman runs up to the podium with the card for the Pittsburgh Steelers at 20, which puts my Patriots and Andrew's Patriots on the board at number 21. So, Shane, you get to stick it back to Andrew here if you want. Who do you want to take for the Pats?
I want to get the Pats, someone that doesn't have separation issues like N'Keal Harry. So Chris Olave. My literal note here said any wide receiver that can separate.
It would be nice. It would be nice.
Kendrick Bourne and Jacoby Myers and Nelson Aguilar are all very nice wide receiver threes for any NFL team. They need a wide receiver one. I think that could be Olave. Maybe being around guys like Myers and Bourne that are kind of tough. They'll teach him how to not go down on immediate contact. But you got to get Mac Jones some help there, right? You have to. It can't be like I can't imagine they're going to draft a tight end, although it's Bill.
So why Olave and not Jameson Williams for you? Just out of curiosity.
I think Olave is more complete, and I think I don't know if Williamson's going to be ready day one, and I think they're shooting for day one. But it's probably going to be a moot point because they're probably going to go linebacker because it's the Patriots and they're going to go as boring as possible.
Offensive line.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. I know it's going to be offensive line. I know we're all excited. We're mocking these receivers like, oh, let's give Mac Jones some weapons, and it's going to be Zion Johnson, Boston College guard.
Probably.
It's the smart way to build a team, right? It's not the fun way.
It is.
But if you got your quarterback, you got him on his rookie contract, you got to get him some weapons, right? Your defense wasn't a problem last year. Let's go out. You're in the toughest conference, AFC, right? Jesus, you're gonna have to score 150 points in the AFC Championship game to make it to the Super Bowl. So let's give him a chance.
All right. So you're going with Chris Olave, Ohio State. Wide receiver. Then Andrew Erickson, you're up next for the Green Bay Packers, who could also use a wide receiver or two or three or four.
Yeah, it's weird, Joe. You took me out of the Chargers pick, but you can't take me out of drafting Jameson Williams in every single draft we do. So I'm going to go with Jameson Williams here to the Green Bay Packers. Obvious need. No Devontae Adams, no Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And the fact that, Jameson Williams might miss some time to start the year, well, the Packers never have wide receivers available to them anyway. So I think that Jameson Williams, again, if he was healthy, I think that he would probably be, in my opinion, like the top guy in this class.
Yeah.
I think he would probably be drafted first. I mean, he left Ohio State with Olave and Garrett Wilson because they just weren't playing him. He was like, all right, I'm going to go ball out. Nick Saban went and plucked him out of Ohio State and be like, all right, you're going to be my guy at Alabama. And he was the guy at Alabama. So Jameson Williams, I think, is going to mesh really well with Aaron Rodgers. And I think that he could have, once he's healthy, like a Justin Jefferson-esque impact for the Green Bay Packers.
So I got a question for you, Andrew. The way we saw Joe Burrow last year kind of get some input or push for them to take Jamar Chase, do you think that if you go dial back one pick to the Patriots, that Mac Jones would get any sort of input at all, or absolutely not because it's Belichick? He could care less what you have to say.
Well, just in terms of just the receiver position in general?
In terms of bringing in hey, that's my dude from Alabama. I want more Alabama dudes on this team. Well, not that there aren't already.
Well, I don't know. If Mac Jones didn't play with Jameson Williams last year.
No, I know he didn't. But in terms of understanding the dialogue, understanding what you want to do, it's a new offensive coordinator. It's a different system. So if you're going to start to tailor it to things that you're comfortable with, Alabama's, offense is something that he's comfortable with. So is Jameson Williams. Does that make sense in your mind? Or you think at this point, only guys like Joe Burrow, who are number one overall picks, get to make that kind of input?
Well, no, I think that he would definitely take his input. I mean, just the fact that Jameson Williams went to Alabama is probably just a reason that he's probably on the Patriots' radar, because the Patriots, just look at their track record. All they do is draft guys from Alabama.
They had that Rutgers run for a while too. I remember back.
Yeah, it was like Rutgers and Alabama were just like the locks every single draft. So, they drafted two guys from Alabama in the first two picks, Mac Jones, Christian Barmore last year. And, if they don't take Jameson Williams, then the name to kind of keep eyes on in the second or third round is John Mechie, the other Alabama wide receiver that played there that actually has played with Mac Jones. So if they don't take, a receiver in round one, which I honestly probably don't think they will, John Mechie seems like the guy they would probably gravitate towards, although he's also coming off an injury as well.
All right, so Jameson Williams, once again, Andrew Erickson gets to make his selection there. Green Bay Packers, Arizona Cardinals, Scott Bogman, you're up next on the clock.
So I wanted to go wide receiver for them because they obviously lost Christian Kirk. They were sane. They didn't pay him what Jacksonville did. So go away then. That's fine. We'll take someone in the draft. But I think there's other guys that are going to be available for them later in the draft that they can take, because they still do have, Rondell Moore, who they drafted last season, and DeAndre Hopkins coming back, hopefully fully healthy. We'll see. But this team needs offensive line. Zion Johnson is a pass blocking guard. So I think this is a good pick. Let's keep Kyler Murray upright and give him some more lanes to run through. So let's go with Zion Johnson, the big guard out of Boston College, and put him on this line, because right now they've got Josh Jones, who graded at like a 48.8 on PFF last year. I know he's a third-round pick. He was kind of an investment, but he is absolutely not working out for them. So let's go with Zion Johnson, the big guard out of Boston College.
Dallas Cowboys are up next with the 24th pick. Shane, they've gone BPA a lot in recent drafts. What do you think they do here?
I think Dallas needs offensive linemen based on free agency. Every one of their offensive linemen have left the team. I'm sure that's wrong. There's probably some offensive linemen on the team, but I don't know any of them. I'm going to go Kenyon Green, run blocker out of Texas A&M. Guard. Dallas likes that whole running game. I don't know if you're aware, because they overpaid Ezekiel Elliott and they refused to cut their losses on that. So they're just going to try to just make that work, and just they need it. They need an offensive lineman badly. And Traylon Burks isn't available. So if he was, I'm sure Jerry Jones would just burn the world to the ground to draft him, but he's not. So they're going Green.
All right, so Kenyon Green, guard from Texas A&M. To the Cowboys, back-to-back guards go. Andrew Erickson, Buffalo Bills are up at 25.
I alluded to this when we talked about our favorite rookie landing spots for fantasy football, and I'm going. It kills me to do this as someone that just looks at the draft and you want to look at value, but I'm going to go with Breece Hall from Iowa State, running back. The Bills are in a situation where they feel like they're loaded. Like, they feel like their roster is up and down, is complete. Like, they don't need any particular player. And the logic behind it, okay, like, let's add the dynamic running back now on a win now team, because we can use him and run him into the ground on his rookie contract. They were very highly in talks about drafting Travis Etienne last year. Like, they were going to draft Etienne if he had not gotten taken by Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars before the Bills got to pick. Daniel Jeremiah had Breece Hall going into his mock draft. He's really plugged into the NFL, and that's why that really stood out to me, is like, he has Breece Hall going to the Bills at 25. And I honestly think that this is going to happen. So get excited. You know, if you're doing these pre-best ball drafts, draft Breece Hall, because I think at the end of the day, he's going to be a Buffalo Bill. And I think that's exciting for fantasy.
Erickson, we talked about them having the luxury to make a luxury pick. I love this. And I think they realized last year with the Devin Singletary run that he had, that a balanced offense is the best medicine for a long playoff run, especially in January and February in Buffalo. You got to have a run game. So that would be a great pick. People get very excited about Breece Hall. I asked this question of Andrew and Cody yesterday. I'm going to ask it of you, Bogman, real quick. What does that do in terms of the redraft stock if Breece Hall goes to the Buffalo Bills?
I mean, it's great. Anytime you can add a true 3-down back to a team that is great defensively, it's going to shoot him through the roof. He's going to be a second-round pick, no doubt. So, Singletary can go right back to the bench where he belongs. So I'm not a big Singletary fan. Look, Singletary definitely took steps, and he played way better than I gave him credit for this season, especially when they would give him 20 carries, right? But I don't know. He pales in comparison to Breece Hall. So Breece Hall comes in, immediate 3-down back, immediate starter for the Bills. And this would be an amazing spot. You would hear that same, remember when Clyde Edwards-Helaire went to Kansas City and we had all the buzz? I was one of those guys. I thought it could really pan out, but we're going to get the same buzz for Breece Hall. So I think that's exactly what would happen.
All right. Yeah, it's funny because Clyde Edwards-Helaire went through the roof, and then Najee Harris still kind of stayed around, like right around the turn. And one was clearly much better than the other in their first year. Bogman, you're up next on the clock at 26 for the Tennessee Titans.
Man, I hate this pick. There's so many good
trade out
players here.
Honestly, trade out.
Dude, if I'm Washington, or if I'm Tennessee, I'm 100% trading out of this spot because look, there's so many good corners, but they just invested in Fairley last year. They also took Elijah Molden and Christian Fulton the year before that. So I don't know that they're going to invest another very high pick in a starting corner. They're good at safety. They signed Zach Cunningham, so they're good at linebacker with him and David Long. Their defensive line seems to be pretty good. There's weaknesses at offensive line. I just don't know if there's one good enough to take here outside of Linderbaum, and Linderbaum is a center, and that is the best spot they have with Jones, Ben Jones as their starting center, so they're all good there. So it's kind of a look, take the best player on the board pick. So I like Nakobe Dean. I think Nakobe Dean is going to be somewhere between Devin White and Devin Bush. Hopefully he's on the right Devin side as a undersized linebacker, and he's closer to Devin White and not Devin Bush. So I'm going to give them Nakobe Dean because I think he's the best player here. Mike Vrabel is a defensive first mind. So Nakobe Dean going to the Tennessee Titans.
All right, Nakobe Dean, linebacker from Georgia to the Titans. The Buccaneers up at 27 with you. Shane Manilla is on the clock.
There's no fun. There's no offensive players here for them to take.
What are you talking about? There's a ton of running backs here. If you want to take somebody else, they just lost Ronald Jones. They still got Fournette, but he's 112. I mean, what do you want to do?
There's absolutely no way I can convince myself to take Kenneth Walker here. Yeah, so I guess I'll have to go defense. Devontae Wyatt, tackle, because it's a good pick. It's what they need.
Sound so depressed, Shane. Defense is fun.
left. It's just, look, I need the NFL draft to basically progress into a way that it's offense only.
Or maybe you could start watching defense.
They could do like the Oscars, right? Like they do the awards before the show that not really anyone wants to watch. Like do those, and they just
we could do it like the USFL did their draft recently, right? Where it's like you guys, this is the quarterback round. You guys take quarterbacks. That's a fascinating format. But look, Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle from Georgia, can't get mad about that. I mean, this is a team too. It's already built to win now, so another luxury pick, but a need nonetheless. So it makes a lot of sense. The Packers are up at 28. Andrew Erickson, you're up on the clock. What are you doing for them?
As enticing as it is to think about drafting another wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers after they basically have never drafted receivers in round one, I'm going to go with offensive tackle instead. I'm going to go with Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan. I think that the Packers are pretty set across their roster for the most part, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that just shoring up the offensive line, again, opposite David Bakhtiari, they lost Dennis Kelly. Billy Turner got released. Elton Jenkins is coming off a torn ACL. So I think that just adding another weapon or some protection for Rodgers up front to go along with now their new wide receiver, I think is the move here.
All right. So Bernard Raymond, offensive tackle from Central Michigan to the Pack. Kansas City Chiefs have back-to-back picks here. First, we'll start with yours, Bogman, at 29.
Look, I'll let someone else take the fun pick. All right. So if somebody else wants to take the fun pick. Thank goodness,
because Shane's going to get very upset if you don't let him.
Right. So look, they could also use some help at corner. Obviously the Chiefs are a team that they're going to be up in games. They're going to have some good corners here. It's been a bit of a bugaboo recently. So let's go with Andrew Booth, the corner out of Clemson. I think he's the best all around corner left on the board. I know that a lot of places have him as a top 15 player. So if he fell back this far, it'd be a pretty nice steal for the Kansas City Chiefs. So let's go with Andrew Booth, the corner out of Clemson, to add in here with, the other potential guys. Snead played pretty well, Fenton and DeAndre Baker. So let's go with Andrew Booth to add to this secondary.
All right, Shane, you're up with the 30th pick for the Chiefs, and Bogman did you a solid by allowing you to draft the fun player, quote unquote. So who's the fun guy you want to put into this offense?
Jahan Dotson. Definitely Jahan Dotson.
Okay.
No, he's not Tyreek Hill. Obviously, not many people are. But we didn't know Tyreek Hill was Tyreek Hill till he became Tyreek Hill.
That was very zen, by the way.
Yes, it is. He's going to be very good in that offense. Any wide receiver with ability that's tied to Patrick Mahomes is going to be a guy that I'm going to be super interested in. I was thinking about another fun guy here, Sky Moore, but I went with Dotson just because I think he's got a little more outside ability. I like the speed, obviously the production in his final year at Penn State, and that was done with Clifford the Big Red Dog at quarterback. So I can only imagine what he's going to do with Mahomes. It's going to be beautiful.
All right, so there you go. There's your wide receiver, Jahan Dotson from Penn State to the Kansas City Chiefs. That puts the Bengals up next, and Andrew Erickson at 31.
I'm going to go with a cornerback here, Kaiir Elam from Florida. 3 straight seasons facing SEC wide receivers. I think is going to translate really well to the NFL level. The Bengals are pretty set. They got Uzier, they have Mike Hilton, but they brought Eli Apple back, and I'm just like, the less that guy's on the field, the better. And the less he's on social media, the better. So let's get another corner in here because we know the Bengals are going to potentially be in it. They're a playoff contender. They made a lot of big improvements on the offensive line. So that's not necessarily where they need to go here. I think that secondary makes sense with Elam as the pick.
All right. So Elam, the cornerback from Florida, goes to the Bengals, and closing us out here, the Detroit Lions, bookending almost the draft. So the Lions are up. Bogman, close us out. Who's the last pick in the first round?
Look, I'm not going to do it. I know what everybody wants me to do. Everybody wants me to take a quarterback for the Lions here and, let them sit behind Jared Goff. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say that.
Well, they have another pick and 2 more picks.
Right.
So why would that be necessary to do when the Jaguars are sitting there at the top of round 2? That doesn't make much sense.
Okay, but Andrew's logic is smart on this one. And it's you take him in the first round to get that 5th-year option. So if that is your guy, he's on his rookie contract for 1 more year. So I understand that. I'm going to say they don't invest in quarterback right in this general area, right? So for me, I'm going to give them Daxton Hill, the safety out of Michigan. Local product gets to stay in Michigan, and they need a free safety pretty bad here. Will Harris was the 91st out of 92 safeties in terms of PFF grading last season. Daxton Hill has a ton of speed, and I think free safety is the spot where he is going to be. So let's add to this defense and, just make it much better because that's what Dan Campbell wants anyway. So Daxton Hill going to the Lions here at the end of this round.
All right, so just to recap here, this last third of the draft, the Patriots at 21 selected wide receiver from Ohio State, Chris Olave. Then Jamison Williams, the wide receiver from Alabama, goes to the Packers at 22. At 23, the Arizona Cardinals selecting Zion Johnson, guard from Boston College. Then Kenyon Green, guard from Texas A&M, goes directly to the Cowboys at 24. At 25, Breece Hall, running back Ohio State, to the Buffalo Bills, and he immediately shoots up all draft boards into the bottom of the first round, at least probably. That would be my guess, somewhere around there. The Tennessee Titans at 26 then take linebacker Nakobe Dean from Georgia. His teammate from Georgia, defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt, goes next at 27 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, followed by the Green Bay Packers again, taking Bernard Raymond, offensive tackle from Central Michigan. Andrew Booth, cornerback from Clemson, going to the Kansas City Chiefs with one of their back-to-back picks. Then Jahan Dotson, wide receiver from Penn State, going at 30. The Bengals taking Elam, the quarterback from Florida. And then last, Daxton Hill, safety from Michigan, to the Detroit Lions. Boys, that's it. Andrew Erickson, how did that feel for you, buddy?
I think part of myself died when I took a running back in the first round. I'm just gonna be honest. Like I love it from a fantasy perspective, but from like a real life NFL general manager perspective, like when you put that
Bills
card
don't
in,
have that many needs, man. That's why those guys go.
But I would still rather them take another wide receiver. It's like, yeah, Gabriel Davis is there. They have Isaiah McKenzie. Like I'd rather them take George Pickens. Like, I think that's a better use of that pick than taking a running back because, yeah, I think that Hall is better than Devin Singletary, but like, does it really? It doesn't matter. Like, we talk about this all the time. Like, running backs for the most part do not matter. So I think that adding another
record, like the last 10 Super Bowl winners weren't paying their running back more than $1 million or whatever. So there's that trend as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Bogman, George Pickens is one of those guys too that did not get drafted here. Is he an absolute steal in the second round to you?
Yeah, I mean, look, this wide receiver class is so deep, and yeah, Pickens would have been a great pick. I almost took him for Tennessee with that pick where I took Nakobe Dean. I just think Dean is more of a team leader, and I think Mike Vrabel's going to like him a little bit more. But yeah, I almost took Pickens for the Lions at that last pick as well. I just think, with so many wide receivers in this class, they might fall a little bit because the class is so deep. So I think these are the correct selections here for a lot of these spots.
Shane, I want to give you a lot of credit. You were able to get 3 quarterbacks into the first round here on this Fantasy Pros mock draft. You came as advertised. You drafted a ton of wide receivers. I'm glad Trey McBride didn't make the first round as a tight end somewhere, but you did what you said you were going to do, and damn it, I'm happy about it because it's great to talk a little bit more about some of these offensive players that are going to really make an impact. And who knows, as this draft continues to unfold over the next few weeks, it might very well be that. Was there one pick in particular that really stood out for you, Shane, that you made that you really were excited about in terms of fantasy value?
Malik Willis. Carolina would be such a good spot for him if the coaching staff wasn't there.
But for this year, it's good that he's there with that coaching staff because it's exactly what you said. When they're 1-3 and Matt Rule's going to get fired, he's going to be like, screw it, just put him in.
And they'll throw him in there. And then in redraft, I doubt he'll get drafted, right? But he's a guy that you can snatch off your waivers and be like, look, he's got the upside. This is what I'm looking for. It's like what we hoped would happen with Trey Lance last year, except Jimmy G never played bad enough to let Lance get on the field. I'm confident in Sam Darnold, highly confident in him that he can play especially bad enough to get Malik Willis on the field. And it's going to be fun to watch. Like, I know there's going to be times when he overthrows Robbie Anderson by about 15 yards. or just absolutely just takes Christian McCaffrey's soul away with like a 2-yard pass that's just way too hard, but it'll
goal
still
line
be fun
carries.
to watch. Yeah, but it's going to be fun to watch. And it's going to be early. Like I feel like Kenny Pickett, if he gets in, it's going to be a lot of game management type of stuff. Like we're going to comp him a lot to, not stylistically, but at least scoring wise, fantasy wise, to Mac Jones last year, where it's like, well, he's an excellent back end QB too. Like that's not exciting. It's Willis. That's a guy. He could be top 10 quarterback, or he could be really bad. Either one's fine for me because I'm not a Carolina fan.
He's Shane Manilla. He always thinks things more exciting. You can follow him on the Twitter machine at Shane is the worst. And of course, check out his work with Dynasty Trades HQ. Shane, thanks again for hanging out with us on the show. So much fun. Scott Bogman, the host of the Dynasty Football Podcast here. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your pods. And of course, you can check out the visual version with Pat Fitzmaurice and Scott Bogman. They've got some great guests lined up here as we go into draft season, and you can check that out too at youtube.com/fantasypros. Subscribe today to that. And of course, if you want to chat with my good friend Andrew Erickson, the best place to do it when he gets back from vacation, of course, is Discord, fantasypros.com/chat. That's the place to be for all the AMAs, the stages, the advice that you need to dominate your fantasy leagues. That's what you want to be doing. Gentlemen, this was absolute blast. I had so much fun and some great picks too. All jokes aside, a very entertaining and educational hour of NFL rookies. So we hope you enjoyed it. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Scott Bogman, Shane Manilla, and Andrew Erickson, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.